So with switching to saxophone, is that transferable? In other words, like if given a clarinet or saxophone, is it the same fingering? Is it the same?
Similar,
To a
similar.
point.
Yeah, it's similar to a point. Part of the clarinet is the same, and then when you switch to you go over the octave and it changes. It's a little bit more confusing, the clarinet. Plus, the clarinet is an open hold instrument, and the saxophone is a closed hold instrument with keys. Um, the embouchure completely different. To get a good sound out of the saxophone, you have to hold your interior mouth and teeth and lips and everything is different. But many sax players also play clarinet and flute because they're all similar fingerings.
Have you ever challenged yourself for other brass instruments like trumpet,
No,
trombone,
no. And I
sousaphone?
have picked up a clarinet for many, many years, and I have a flute in the closet that every now and then, if I need a flute on one of my records, I will shed for a day or two enough to get a wispy sound. But yeah, I mainly have been concentrating on the saxophone, and I did play keyboards for a long time too. That was, my entree into professional show business was playing keyboards.
Okay.
But just to be clear, you never played the recorder.
I did play the recorder as well.
Everyone
Okay.
did.
Recorder is a very challenging
Really
instrument.
hard.
It's what
Really.
they give all the kids first. So,
Yeah, but if you've ever heard someone really play the recorder, it's quite impressive because it's
wow.
a bitch.
What were your early influences? Like at the time, like in the early days, like clarinet transition to saxophone, like clearly you picked it up and then was somebody like, you should listen to this. Was there like a touchstone artist
I
at
would
that
say
time?
when you're a kid and you're picking up the saxophone, and I took, private lessons in addition to the school. In New Rochelle, the private teacher that taught me was a guy named Stanley Hammer, and I came to find out that Bob Mintzer, famous sax player from the Yellow Jackets, also studied with him, although he was a few years older. And what I remember about him was he had a couple of dogs that were yapping incessantly during the lessons. Um, but
Really?
when you first start on the saxophone, people will push you. I started on an alto, and people will push you to listen to Charlie Parker, and
Mhm.
that kind of bebop music was not really didn't warm me up because I was like I said, I loved radio, I loved the R&B. The fusion thing came a little later. Um, but when I heard Grover Washington Jr. in '75, that was what, it's the first cat I heard that was mixing up sort of a go-go beat with a lovely saxophone tone and improvisational spirit, but with a song that you could hear. And that was what really, was like, wow, man, this is dope. And that was kind of the path that it started. That's what started me down this path. And it's a tradition I think I'm sort of carrying on today.
So with the saxophone, how hard is it to find your and I don't mean, people always say the terms of like, oh, trying to find your voice, but it's like I know Coltrane when I first hear it. I know Herb Alpert when I first hear him. I know Miles. Like as far as tone, I always wondered how a brass player finds a tone. Like, it's weird. It wasn't until he passed away that I realized that Sanborn has a trademark as far as his tone is concerned.
Hmm.
So for you, how long was it before you figured out like how where to carve yourself in, as in I know that's Boney the second I hear it.
Well, I think that's kind of harder for me to be objective about. But I mean, I when I think about it, on my own terms. I think it was when I really started to write songs for me as an artist, when I really started to think because so much of my life prior to when I started making records was working as a sideman and you have to be a chameleon and you would often, I played keyboards a lot, but when I got to play the saxophone, I have to learn someone else's solo. So I would, pretend to be Ernie Watts or pretend to be David Sanborn or, an imitative kind of
Damn,
thing.
Ernie Watts. Wow. Okay.
But when I started, when I really got frustrated with that lifestyle, and I thought, man, I really should just try and do my own thing. I wasn't liking any of the songs I was writing for other people. I was trying to, get a publishing deal, all the things young musicians do. And
Mhm.
I thought, let me just try and make records, make music for me. That was when I think I started to feel what I was playing more and to really just become more enmeshed in the music. And that was when the horn became more my voice and distinguishable. And people tell me now that they can always tell it's me, and I'm very grateful
hmm
that
Slow
some.
burn, you can tell from some of the other records, like the actual slow burn record.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think hopefully my sound is continuing to evolve. I mean, I'm always working on trying to become more and more the essence of whatever it is that I'm doing, and so much of that is the more adept you get at the horn, the fewer barriers there are for expressing yourself. And if you're really playing from the heart, I think you're going to have an identifiable voice, whether you're singing or playing an instrument. So that's my theory.